Happy Bringling. Myself, Anshav Jain, founder of Bringle, would like to announce that now onwards we will use only our Bringle blended platform mandatorily for all meetings and training and would not share the independent Zoom links as we have automated 89% of the Indian government guidelines. Anybody would like to secure their data even while using Zoom, please connect with us at info@bringleacademy.com for integration to your Zoom accounts in a one-time cost only and use the platform for free. Pulse of wisdom from the topic measurement is a reality. Ashay mentioned that creativity is quite subjective and difficult to measure as it is based on perception of audience within economic and social boundaries. At the core of every business, creativity has to be linked with the purpose and target market. Appreciate the task based on exposure or the awareness of the audience, which makes it as a real measure. The three important measures for creativity are total audience, total revenues, and number of people with the ability to recall. Naresh from BNI mentioned that measurement is a reflection where one has moved in with respect to actual plan. Qualitative and quantitative indicators for the measurement will define the business. The qualitative indicator about the success stories, which are more important fact of measurement to the business of the today's world. Ramesh Iyer spoke that envisioning an outcome or big picture and then formulate the process with measurement. One who measured the business over a year, the loss is only for a year. Over a month, it is for a month. And if it is a day, the loss is only for a one day, which can be achieved only by the technology and with the right dashboards. Looking at data in isolation doesn't give a trend, but it is a mirror that shows the trueness of the business. Businesses, startups, entrepreneurs, please upload your pitch decks at bringleacademy.com/course/business sustainability and do subscribe our YouTube channel Bringle Talks and watch the recorded live sessions on various topics of business sustainability as part of 21 days business sustainability challenge. Till then, keep bringling, keep growing.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Happy Bringling. Once again, thanks to all of you for coming to this 21 days business sustainability challenge. And we are at day 16 of 21 days business sustainability challenge, which we are running it on Bringle blended platforms, blended meetups, and blended learning platform. Thanks to all the viewers who are watching it live on our YouTube channel, Bringle Talks. Do subscribe and hit the bell for the daily show. Myself, Anshav Jain, founder of Bringle Blended Meetups and Blended Learning Platform, would like to share one very important information which has been issued by the government of India as a security measure while using the Zoom connection. These problems can arise in any video conferencing solution. So please be careful on while using that any solution of video conferencing. Just to add, our platform Bringle Meetups, Bringle Blended Meetups and Blended Learning Platform basically has automated 9 out of 9 steps already within the platform. And if you are using any of the platform, any of the video conferencing solution at your end, you can just get it integrated with Bringle platform and make it completely secure, including with your recordings and your user data completely in your private cloud. So do reach out to us if you have such kind of requirements, and you can reach out to us at info@bringleacademy.com. With this, I would like to share pearls of wisdom of the yesterday's topic, tangible and intangible outcomes. Joseph Yusuf Sahab, he mentioned that essence of humans is essential is relationship and connecting people, which makes the person the human CRM. The best way to be a human CRM is to adopt care. His copyrighted word, care, appreciate, relate, engage model, and the taker, transform, assist with budget, KYC, encourage feedback, and risk plan, which completes it as a sentence, caretaker. I mean, the word caretaker, with active listening as part of the key feedback. John Knight's transpersonal leader has to be, he was mentioning about leadership that the leader has to be radical, ethical, authentic, caring, and sustainable to manage their emotions and manage their egos. Ask self the question, what is the benefit from me? But always think of the stakeholders' perspective. Yeah, do dare to do things in spite of frameworks. The weaknesses is not enough dialogue. We need to talk, we need to meet, and not to be arrogant at the same time. Value everybody within the organization. Institutionalization of individual in philosophy versus individualizing the institution in real life is the game changer. Create partnerships is the minimalistic bridge for the next generation. I would also like to request businesses, startups, entrepreneurs to please upload your pitch decks at bringleacademy.com/course/business sustainability. Because of the huge demand, we have postponed the live pitching event for a month, and now you can upload your pitch decks before 15th of May as well. Today's topic is on measures is a reality, and today's speakers are Ashay, Naresh, and Ramesh. With this, I would like to thanks all the speakers who have taken their precious time and spending their 1 hour with us and spreading the pulse of wisdom with the entire world. Thanks once again, and I would request Charu to explain, share about today's speakers.
Thank you so much, Ansha. A very good afternoon, good evening, and good morning to whole global community there. Peter Drucker, who invented modern business management, said once, if you can't measure it, you can't improve it. It is so true. If you can't measure something and know the result, you can't possibly get better at it. So let's learn from the expert speakers today what is the importance of measures in present reality. We have Akshay Sahasrabudri from India, founder and CEO Kintel. Kintel is India's first inclusive communication agency, which works to transform the lives of persons with disabilities through creating accessible media content and inclusive communication. He is an entrepreneur, media accessibility professional, filmmaker, and PhD scholar. Welcome, Akshay, to the show. We have Naresh Karmakar, business manager, Habitat for Humanity India, and assistant area director, BNI India for Mumbai West. As assistant director, area director for the Mumbai West region, the largest region in Mumbai for BNI India, he oversighted over 19 existing chapters comprising over 1,000 business owners and professionals, supporting them to increase businesses through mutual support and collaboration through the giver's gain philosophy of BNI. He also supports the creation of new chapters in the region, helping launch directories to reach out to more business owners with the intention to help grow their businesses and bolster the country's economy in the process. As a senior consultant of Habitat for Humanity, he has a proven history of working in the non-profit organization management industry. Strong community and social services professional, skilled in non-profit organizations, sustainability development, corporate social responsibility, government, and big picture thinking. Welcome, Naresh, to the show. And we have Ramesh Iyer, President and Chief Revenue Officer at V8 Tech Ventures Private Limited. In the past, he has been Business President Enterprise SME in Tata Teleservices, MD, India Concur Technologies. With 27 years plus of professional excellence in IT, telecom, new age technologies, and management. Mission is to lead, inspire, grow, and transform the chosen business entity and the team. Deliver end-to-end results, including meeting shareholders' expectations. Welcome, Ramesh, to the show. And myself, Charu Mehrotra. I'm founder of online magazine womenlines.com, which is listed in top 40 online women's magazine to follow in 2020. So do follow it, friends. So my first question goes to Akshay. Akshay, you come from a media, entertainment, and filmmaking. While working there is no standard norm, it's creativity. How can one measure the creativity which is infinite and viewers who are too in masses? There is no limit to define. Please share your insights.
Sure. So thank you so much, Charu, for having me, and thank you everyone of this entire the team of Bringle Talks. So as you said, that creativity is something which is very difficult to measure, and it's absolutely right because creativity it's a very subjective thing. So it becomes very difficult. What is creative and what is something good for me may not be good or may not be that much creative enough for someone else. So that's why let's consider India as the audience. we have such a diverse set of audiences in our country that it becomes very difficult to measure any creativity if we have to apply it to the entire population. So obviously the creativity is linked to the purpose for which it is getting created, and based on that purpose you have to define the audience, and the creativity and its impact is measured through that way. So when talking about films or any creative media as such, ultimately it's a business. So whatever be the topic of your film or topic of your communication, or as you mentioned that I am also working into media accessibility, where we create content as well as we make films accessible for people with hearing and visual impairment. But ultimately at the core, it's a business. So when I have to measure the creativity part, it is very obvious that how it touches the people that I'm trying to set up as my audience. So I'll for let's say for the accessibility of a film, if I have to judge its creativity part, then it has to be measured with how easily it can appeal to make maximum number of people. And that's where the creativity creativity is not certainly something which is boundaryless. It is within the boundaries of your audience and their perception, their social thinking. Everything comes into play when they are getting when they are accessing any media content.
Very true.
But when I am talking about the business angle of it, it is very much important that the business is at the forefront. As in my experience, when I was working on one of the film, a Marathi film in 2016. So of course it was a great initiative from the producers, but ultimately what I learned through that entire process was that filmmaking is not about just creativity. It is about business. They are investing few crores of money, so they will expect more than whatever the invested amount is to get back. Same case has to happen with the accessibility also, in order to it becoming an sustainable business model. So when I am talking about creativity and accessibility together, the creativity is something which can people access, or which can people appreciate depending on their exposure, depending on their awareness. But at the same time, I have to also think about the tangible outcome of that particular activity or creative task that I'm handling out. So this is very important, that creativity is not just something which can happen in a vacant space. It is within the boundaries of a lot of different aspects, like economics or social thinking of your audience, and what kind of delivery mechanism you have, and as well as the core content.
Very well said, Akshay. And as a creative, I mean, I'm running an online media. So as a creative person, it's very difficult to measure. But yes, we have to think as a business owner also, and how we are creating that impact. So yes, you have highlighted it very well. So particularly for today's, reaching out today's generation, and the way Kintel is approaching, I mean, the area which you are touching, which is inclusive communication agency, that must be a huge task, and you have to be little more creative, I think, to create that impact. And to measure that impact, I think there must be a few challenges for you.
Yes, indeed. So as I said, that right from the day one, when I thought of, okay, let's start with something in this relatively unknown space of inclusive communication or media accessibility, or rather, I would say, since 4 years, I have been, even now, I'm trying to find the right balance between making it a creative and at the same time making it business sustainable, getting a model which can sustain on its own. Because what I have learned over these years is that your audience is not it does not come in a bunch. It is scattered all over the places. So getting them together is one most important part. At the same time, most of the people with disabilities belong to lower levels of socio-economic graph. That impacts largely on how they consume the media content. So be it a film or be it anything. So so they need to be conditioned in order to pay X amount for consuming the media content. Right now, the situation is we don't have enough media content. Whatever they are accessing content is not accessible at all. So even that community is not very well aware of something that, okay, I have to pay to get something for myself.
Correct.
This attitudinal change is very much important on the audience side. The same thing is with the producers, film producers or content producers side. They also think that, okay, this is a very tiny group of people, so why do we have to spend anything on creating or value creation for this very tiny group of people? But actually it's a little complex thing. They think that they have to spend extra, but actually let's say if whatever the movie cost is for creating a Hindi film, let's not talk about Hollywood, even a Marathi film, let's talk about the regional cinema.
Correct.
Making that cinema accessible doesn't even cost 1% of whatever the total amount is. That's how the expenditure part is, and definitely they can earn more on it with the help of OTT platforms. So a lot of blind people are crazy about Netflix only because Netflix originals come with audio description.
Yes.
They come with closed captions for deaf people. That is the reason they want content, but unfortunately we don't have enough, and that's a sad part.
Right. Very well described. Thank you so much for that share.
Thank you.
My next question goes to Naresh. Your dynamic portfolio is one side social transformation and other side is building businesses. What is the difference in measuring output in either of the area? Can you highlight?
Second. Oh yeah. Thanks, Charu. Let's face it, maybe 20, 30 years ago, if you had asked me the question, it would have been a difficult one to answer. Because the non-profit world has changed tremendously in the last couple of decades. In fact, the largest scrutiny on the non-profit world in the recent times has been actually very, very welcome, especially with the Companies Act coming out in 2013 in India, making CSR mandatory. So as people give more money to the sector, they're asking more questions, and rightly so. Of course, sometimes it's very disproportionate. You give 100 rupees and ask questions worth $1 million. That's a different story. So that's a grouse that many nonprofits have. But I think this is very welcome, and that's moved the sector to a greater deal of accountability. So if you're talking about whether monitoring and measurement, yes, whether it's a business or whether it's a nonprofit, it's absolutely mandatory that you actually measure yourself. If nothing else, if not for the outside world, it's for you yourself to figure out where you're moved as compared to where you said you were going. So in Habitat for Humanity, for example, I was heading the planning, monitoring, evaluation segment for South Asia and then Asia Pacific. And it actually started with trying to get all our programs into this whole cycle of a 3-year cycle of planning, monitoring, evaluation, because measurement cannot actually stand out on its own. It has to be in terms of metrics laid down in a plan, whether it's a 3-year strategic plan or a 5-year strategic plan. And that measurement is going to help you track whether you're actually reaching out to what you've been doing. The same analogy goes to businesses. I mean, even in BNI, when we do our trainings, there is a whole element of, hey, what is the kind of turnover you said that you're going to do this year? If that's so, then how much would you get from BNI? And if that's so, then what are the things you need to do in order to get there? So this measurement is extremely critical. If you like they say, if you don't know where you're going, you have no idea where you're going to end up. So the measurement principles are the same for both. What you measure obviously will differ. The indicators that you use for the nonprofit world would look at a lot in terms of human impact, whereas we don't look at it so much in the business side, which I think it's something maybe businesses should look at. And now with triple bottom line and sustainability looking at across sectors, maybe this is something which businesses would also need to look at, the whole emphasis on the environment. So there are obviously quantitative and qualitative indicators, which every sector lays out on its own. But one thing which is very exciting, and I think which the nonprofit sector has got a lead on, is the whole idea of qualitative measurement, especially in terms of stories. Stories are absolutely important in measurement. And, and it's a common thing. We use it in BNI very well. They say that facts tell, but stories sell. And in the nonprofit world, you're talking about impact out there. You're talking about lives changing. And without stories, nonprofits really can't survive. It's no point in giving statistics and how much money was doled out, how much was actually how it was spent, or how many houses were built where we are concerned, or how many toilets were built, etc., etc. It's talking about how have you moved that family from where they were before this intervention and where they are. And now this is something which I think businesses also are looking at. I know a friend of mine, Adi Pocha, who's a filmmaker, and his films, the corporate films he makes, are absolutely human interest films, because he says a company is made of the people who are in the company. A factory or a business is made of the people who are. If you forget the people, seriously, all your stats mean nothing. And very interestingly, Charu, in this lockdown period, we just completed an exercise in my Mumbai West region for BNI. We have about 1,600 entrepreneurs across 28 chapters in the region. And what we were trying to do is actually get those success stories. One is like, for example, how many have adapted their business models to be able to respond to the COVID crisis? Are you creating products and services which can be useful for the COVID response for the government? The second one we are looking at is like, how have you, if you've already been in the online space, and which is now suddenly becoming so important, whether you are an internet service provider, whether you are a computer hire person, or a social media person, how are you actually responding and taking advantage of the situation to provide services to business people who are actually locked down at home? Is there something you can do? And the third one is to see how are you running your businesses which actually don't seem to have a connect, but is there a way you have found to go online so that you are relevant, that you're building up a base so that when the lockdown lifts up, we can. So all this is being measured, and we are trying to collate all those stories. So that becomes a great source of inspiration for others as well. So yeah, if that answers the question.
Wonderful insights, Naresh. In fact, the storytelling is something which is the buzzword in present scenario. And whether it's a business sector or non-profit sector, I'm sure there must be challenges, more challenges in non-profit sector, because definitely the way it works is different, and how we lay out the matrices is totally different. But yes, once we start thinking as a business, and when we lay out every segment, I think things can work much better way. Wonderful insights.
Thank you so
Can
much.
you please throw light on the on day-to-day basis how measures as a reality concept can be driven?
I'm sorry, that's addressed to me?
Yeah, that's for you.
Yeah. So
I repeat the question?
Sure, please.
Yeah, can you please throw light on day-to-day basis how measure is reality concept which can be driven every day?
Okay. So you see, in both sectors, there is a certain amount of data that's collected every single day. And today with technology, that is being done. For example, if you're talking about Habitat for Humanity, which is mainly into housing or sanitation, for example, or you're looking at any other organization which is right now providing food for the low-income groups, there is these statistics which need to come in every single day. How many packets were distributed, or how much has the house been constructed to? What is left to be done? What is the plan after that? So this is the kind of real-time data, whether through cell phones, whether through computers and networks. That's something which is collected every single day, and that's mapped towards the plan. Now, where businesses are concerned, is the same thing. If right now, if production is stopped for some people, then what is the other angle? What are you focusing on? Are you focusing on marketing, for example? So I'm just talking specifically of this area. Then what are the new avenues you opened up? And every day is, if for example, is simple stuff. You're on social media now. You're using social media to reach out to the people. How many posts are going out? How many people is that reaching out to? How much has that increased over the last target that you had? So these are the kind of monitoring things which are going on in this situation. But if it were a regular situation, yes. If you have a production line, obviously, at the end of the day, what is the kind of, how many pieces have you manufactured? Then, you need to see whether it fits to your template as to whether you've fallen short or whether you've got to go. So these are some of the measures. Obviously, the fiscal measures, the financial measures are one thing. The actual, we can say the material measures, the production measures are one thing. And the HR measures is something else. And what about the man hours? How much of work days are being spent? How many? So this is something which is being recorded on a day-to-day basis, I think, with any organization. The same thing goes for nonprofits as well. The complexity of the data you actually choose to, and actually I think it's a choice you make. There are people who tend to say that the more indicators you're tracking, the better you are. Not necessarily. Not necessarily. You can create a whole mess for yourself if there are 150 indicators you're tracking every single day. So the idea is, first of all, are you measuring what needs to be measured? If you want to measure your weight, are you going to use a thermometer? I mean, I'm putting it very, very simply. So are you using the right measures to measure what you need? Is it going towards what you said you were going to do? And secondly, how many of these measures are there just the right amount? You can create a whole lot and create a whole lot of work for your people to do, but keeping people busy is not the answer. The idea is, can this be done without increasing your workload? And that is the trick, and I think the sensitivity part of monitoring. But yeah, so this is the kind of daily things you could possibly look at. Yeah.
Awesome points, I must say that, because once you start thinking in those matter, and particularly you mentioned that we have to focus on the right indicators, we should be saving our time and getting more results out of it.
Right.
Thank you so much for such wonderful share.
Thanks, Charu.
My next question goes to Ramesh Iyer. This is with respect to your experience of working with SMEs, which is still unorganized area. How does process, measure, and output is taken seriously? And here, many SMEs are focusing on aligning their business with the market. Sales become major area for them. So can you share some insights on that?
Sure. Thanks, Charu. So fundamentally, be it SME or large enterprises, over the last few years, when I got an opportunity to work very closely and monitor the way they monitor their behavior, few things came out conspicuously. One, SMEs typically have a very short-term vision, and there is a huge bias for action, wherein corporates tend to have a long-term vision, and the measurement and metrics in most of the organizations are largely in place. But if you look at the world of business, be it from an SME perspective or from an large enterprise perspective, the world of business is constantly changing and churning. Many wheels are in motion. It's like juggling multiple balls at the same time. It's very, very easy to get lost and feel overwhelmed. I have seen this happening with many, many SMEs, more than enterprises, and even startups, and in few cases, high growth companies. Why is this happening? The owner, due to the owner-driven philosophy, there is a huge bias for action. And depending on the stage of the company, whether they are in early stage, if they are in early stage, they tend to go very aggressive in terms of sales, in terms of acquisition, in terms of revenue. If they are going to the next stage, then probably they look at revenue growth, rate of revenue growth, profitability, and maybe this third stage could be what needs to get measured in each stage. For the third stage, it would be more from the perspective of what's the segment profitability, what is the product profitability. Look at this very carefully. On day one, do you think SMEs can launch what should be the product profitability, what should be the segment profitability? And I'm including SME startups also as part of SMEs here. So what needs to be measured at each stage is very critical. You can go on a very aggressive measurement, but what gets measured gets achieved. But it's very, very critical for you to understand what needs to be measured, when does it need to be measured, how frequently does it need to be measured, and how would you go about measuring it? Are you measuring it through an unautomated tool, or you have a completely integrated end-to-end system in place? You are investing in automation and have a total visibility and a dashboard for you to have a central command and control. These are missing in SMEs. SMEs tend to have a very aggressive, owner-driven culture. So culture is something that is not measurable. There are people who say that, yes, there are ways and means of measuring culture through employee engagement and various other methods, but culture is very, very unique to every enterprise. So you got to use culture as an important driver for the growth. But at the same time, many companies, I have seen the SME specifically and the startup specifically, they tend to do away with process citing culture, tend to do away with the specific areas of measurement, citing culture. Culture should be more of a driver aiding growth and should not come in the way of process. So process adherence is very critical. I have also seen many SMEs who have gone ahead and acquired many customers, but when you start finding out what exactly has been acquired, at what rate, and when was it acquired, what is the sales cycle, what is the sales velocity, and how much is the revenue per customer, revenue per employee, and do we have a end-to-end process in place in terms of starting with suspect to prospect to contract closure to onboarding to entire life cycle, right? So the revenue, the retiring of customer, or revenue enhancement, or the retiring of customer, they may or may not necessarily have a process to understand even some of this. So going back to your question, every SME or even large enterprise, the first thing that they need to do is envision an outcome. Only when you envision an outcome and the big picture, you will be in a position to formulate what kind of inputs that you want to bring into the business and what kind of process and metrics and measurement that you want to put in place. Otherwise, if the outcome is not known to you, the business goals are not known to you, you will be missing the woods for the trees. You will end up going haywire. The measurement is like a compass. It will, in a world of business jungle or on high seas, it will always help you to head true north or true south. So it's very, very critical for companies to identify what is the outcome that you are, the desired outcome that you are looking at, basis with you re-engineer all that is required in terms of measurements and metrics. There is a Japanese proverb which says that what gets measured gets achieved. That's a generic proverb. But what is more important is in Japanese there is a saying. The essence of the saying is essentially, if you measure your business once a year, what is lost is 1 year. If you measure your business once a month, the loss is 1 month. If you measure your business once a day, the loss is 1 day. What does it mean? It means that in your plan, do, check, act cycle, check is extremely vital. It will help you to realign. It will help you to course correct. Otherwise, you will tend to think that you are super busy, but in terms of your achievement, have you made some progress towards your business goals? You may not have achieved anything at all. So it's very, very critical to essentially understand the outcome even before you start off on a business mission, and basis which you need to realign yourself during the course of this journey. I've also seen in few cases, the data is not captured properly. And in many of the cases where the data, what people think or tend to argue about, should never be the case. If you really know what needs to be captured, from what source, and what exactly are you looking at, it is not just the data in isolation. There has to be a trend that needs to be captured. That trend needs to be measured. Otherwise, looking at the data in isolation will never give you a trend. And this is where, as people say, data doesn't lie. So it's like a mirror that shows your true health of the business, right? Truth will eventually come out, no matter how we try to hide. Whether you want to put walls around it, you want to build moats around it, truth will always come out. And the importance of measuring is to also remove the subjectivity, remove biases, remove also the noise or the clutter, and create value, right? Otherwise, you will never know, are you creating value or are you destroying value? I have seen, for example, there are a few Tata Group companies, for every decision that they make, the fundamental question that every manager is supposed to ask is it creating economic value add? In the sense that they have this EVA as a concept, and every decision before or any approval is given, they want to ask this question, What is it, a positive EVA or a negative EVA? So similarly, every business decision, when you look at, you should ask a fundamental, simple question. Is it in alignment with my business goal or not? If it is in an alignment with my business goal, then go ahead and execute it, resource it, and start measuring it. Right? It's absolutely very, very critical to start measuring it. And what we have seen is SMEs do, but it does take a little bit of time in their journey. And over a period of time, when they mature, they put in systems and measurements in place, like corporates. But maintaining the DNA and also measuring it, DNA of a startup culture or an SME culture, as well as putting in strong measurement for process as well as for outcome, will be very critical for SME survival.
Wow, what a beautiful description. And so many points are coming now. As I can think as a startup owner, it's so much challenge to think what matrices should be taken. And I love the point, the data, how we have to use the data, as the data is a new oil. So yeah, it's fantastic tips you have shared today. Rashri, what do you think?
I was just listening to him, and my paper is full of what he said.
Yeah, so many things to note down.
Yeah. So each speaker has given different perspective, and
Awesome.
it's like a crash course on how to view your business from a different angle. And there are a lot of you can do it now kind of,
Correct.
The advices are coming today. So not much jargon, but a lot of quick way, get on, get going. COVID-19 there or not, start if you have not started.
So much to do
that.
My last question to Ramesh is, can you please share a few details to our audiences who are SMEs and startups, how to get measure is reality into their businesses?
Okay. Simple. Do the right thing and do it right. And if you know what are the KPIs to measure, you will run any business successfully. No business is heavily complex or complex enough to fear or worry about. If you know what are the KPIs, key performance indicators, to be measured in your business, if you know which one are these and how to measure, how periodically you need to measure, it'll be very easy for anyone. However the business, the complexity of the business, you will be able to really measure it well, and you will be able to achieve progress. So you need to just not measurement, but then need to ensure that you are able to really move ahead in the right direction. As I said, it might have sounded very simple. Do the right thing and do it right. Right.
Yeah.
What I have seen in my life, I used to run multiple businesses, used to start their day as early as 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock in the morning, multiple phone calls, multiple metrics, many measurements. It's not the number of things that you measure, but it is the key critical things that you measure that is very vital, right? And I used to do hundreds of things in a day, multitasking, but later realized that I need to probably take some time out and take a step back and really look at the business holistically, what kind of an outcome I need and what do I need to really measure. So if I know these two, and what are the right things to achieve those individual milestones in that journey to achieve the outcome, right? So then you write down clearly, these are the 5 things, right things to do. Right? And then once you have identified these are the right things to do, instead of doing the right thing, that's the difference, right? Brutally focus on doing the right thing, right? Outcome is just an eventuality, right? And do it right. When I say do it right, which is where you need to put in the right resources, you need to put in the right metrics and measurement, and you need to ensure that the business is aided in every which way to grow it to the next level of whatever the market share they want, whatever the revenue growth they may need, whatever the profitability that may need.
Great. So it all depends upon the power of choice which we make for our matrices or resources and how we apply it. Wonderful learning. Rashri, I hand over to you now for question answer session.
Yeah. So there are questions. Anshuv, you have 2 questions. Maybe you can ask. Yes.
So I have questions for everybody. I mean, looks like so. I think wonderful insights first of all, and I would like to go with the same sequence of the speakers, who have kind of spoken. Uh, Ashay, I have a very specific question to you when it comes to the media sector or a creativity or a social sector. These are the sectors which is, when it comes to outcomes, it is very difficult to measure. And a lot of times we see, numbers floating around in various things. And there is no, kind of concrete value or the numbers which we can kind of showcase it to the world. While you cannot, you know, uh, I would say you cannot say that you do not trust them, but then it is there. So in terms of digital world, like we have our own TV and OTT channel integration, which claims to be giving us around 200 plus million viewership in 140 plus countries. But in the media world, how do you track all this and how do these numbers arrive? If you can give little more insights on that, it would be really great.
Sure, sure. So, as I said that the earlier I mentioned about that creativity is something which is very subjective, and when we are talking about OTT platforms, the content that they have, it's a physical form of the creativity. So it is easy to measure the content as compared to measuring the creativity. Now, when we talk about content or especially with the platforms, it's very easy because it is so YouTube insights that we get or a Facebook insights that we get, all the information that we get from the insights is directly talking with us about a particular user. So we can get the data of a single user also, that we get to know what are his or her viewing patterns are, how long a person watches a particular content, what kind of content the person likes to access. All these things are possible just because we have the technology at the back end. Now, when it comes to television, the earlier all this TRP and thing, it is still now till now it is not a very authentic data. Because the number of TRP meters that we install in country are very less as compared to the number of TV sets that we have in our country. So largely, even because TV is a medium where it runs on the money of advertisers. So the advertisement budget of a particular company is linked to the sales. That's how they measure this creativity, the content part also, for the particularly for the television. But when it comes to OTT, it is easily trackable. And as you mentioned in your question, that the reach that is available or you are seeing on your OTT channel integration, it is very much possible because it is directly linked to the user, a particular user.
Okay, I think thanks, Ashay. I think you beautifully explained that, and I think that gives a little good clarity to our viewers and our users as well, who are using our Bringle platform to promote their own work in the various TV and OTT channel network.
Yeah.
And because this question has been coming to us a very long time, that while we have this kind of viewership, and that people confuse it with the perspective that it is there on the Bringle platform, on the Bringle website. But I think I just wanted to understand that how it is being tracked and it is really trackable from that perspective or not. Thanks, Ashay, for explaining that.
Thank you. Thank you.
So my next question is to Naresh. Naresh, you mentioned about various businesses shifting online today.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a post-COVID scenario. What we are also seeing is that there are a lot of issues coming out of it in terms of administrative issues. The challenges which people were unaware completely, because we have kind of automated our world wherever possible, and at least when it comes to physical world or the world, the offline world, we can still put in people and manage the things well. But when it comes to online world, it cannot work without automation, and with that lot of other challenges comes in. I have seen a lot of our users struggling with a basic technology, even using a basic video conferencing application, and saying that technology doesn't work, the platforms doesn't work, all those challenges. Now in the online world, how are we going to measure the efficiency percentages? Like one of the ways by which we do is, so let's say if there is a way of there are 10 steps in performing a particular job or the entire activity. Like we conduct these Bringle blended meetups on that, and if there are around 10 to 12 steps which we have identified which are being done, and if we have to spend our manual effort in only one or two, it kind of gives us to a 80 to 90% automation. Or so is that the efficiency definition or something else? And how important it is in the online world coming up?
Okay, I'd like to address two aspects of your question. The first part is, when you're talking about, I would say preparedness or, some kind of deficiencies, if you want to use the word, in people adapting to the medium. There's no option to that but training. We've come to a stage where, there's no alternative. So far, it could have been an option. Work from home was an option. Today, it could, post-COVID, I think a number of companies are going to keep on with that option, at least for a percentage of their efforts. It's going to have some benefits beyond what was expected. So we were a little late to adapt to the work from home concept, but now I think it's going to be something everybody's going to consider. So similarly, for example, BNI. Now, BNI is a global organization. We work in business chapters. We have chapters, physical meetings every week with more than 270,000 members across 74 countries. In the space of just about a week or two, the entire system was moved to online meetings. Now you can imagine the kind of, the acceptability of the medium, but we had no option and we had to train. We ourselves had to get trained how to do that. And we had to train all our members saying, hey, there is no way we can, in a lockdown, we can't go out. So I think that whenever you go online, obviously you need to have a parallel plan for training people to get onto the medium and to use the medium properly, especially the ones you're relying to run your business on. In terms of the other one, in terms of efficiency, now, again, I think what Ramesh put so beautifully, I mean, you need to have an idea about the outcome, or where is it that you want to go, even with the online medium. Now, for example, if you are a business coach, okay, you're a business coach or you're a trainer who has predominantly been operating in an offline medium, you want to go to online. Okay, now some of the things are not going to change. The same indicators that you're using to see how efficient you are in the offline world will also be out here in the online world. You will have to add a couple more kind of indicators out there in terms of what are you investing in. What is the equipment you're investing in? Are you investing in higher bandwidth? You're obviously going to measure the same thing. How much time am I spending with a client? What is the outcome which I have set for myself, or the output and outcome indicators I have for myself? What are the output and outcome indicators I have for my client? So some of those efficiency issues are related, are not going to change too much. Now, obviously, there is also going to be a restriction in terms of what you can do online as versus what you do offline. So I would say like that's exactly where every business has to think through the online option. For example, if you're into manufacturing, there's no way you can move the whole thing online. But definitely, is there one aspect of your business which you're going to like say, I'm going to use the online medium for this? And I'm talking only COVID right now, if you want to look at that. Say this one, I'm going to say, how many prospective clients am I building up in this period of time? Okay, do I have a number for that? That this every week I'm going to be generating. I'm going to reach out to so many. I'm going to make sure that I get my message out. What percentage of that number is going to get back to me with further information? How much of those am I going to engage? And how many of them am I going to convert into business in the online space? And how many am I going to keep engaged so that I deal with them in the offline space? So each of these is going to actually determine your efficiency. So I don't think there's a single answer I can give you in terms of how do you measure efficiency. It all depends on what you're using the online medium for and what is the outcome you're actually expecting from that whole process. I don't know if I'm kind of addressing it.
So Naresh, you've actually brought up a very important point and you answered it well. I mean, just to give that perspective, because see, the problem here is, and which I was actually trying to, get out from this answer, is that people consider shifting online means video conferencing solution. Then, they come on a Zoom and they connect. That is not online. And
No.
we had a very brilliant speaker recently from a manufacturing industry, and he is, the way he was talking about how businesses, the manufacturing or industries are going to go automated. It was
Yes.
there on the disruptive technologies as a theme last week. And the way he was talking about the concept of dark rooms, no man production, and things like that,
Yeah.
that is the kind of concept is also online. So when it comes to online, people, I think 80% of the population is still considering video conferencing is an online option.
Very true.
But I think the blended models, when we talk about it, it is not going to be only online video conferencing. It will
Yes.
attach a lot of other aspects.
Yeah.
Like one of the speaker, I think yesterday or day, I think the same meeting, disruptive technologies, they have shifted 11,000 employees of theirs completely working from home in just 1 month's time after this.
Absolutely.
And this is a incredible work, because managing those people with respect to their efficiencies and all, I see a lot of organizations have shifted their people work from home. But in a way, what they're doing is all their managers are sitting every day on a Zoom call or some video conferencing to monitor their people that they're working.
See, the point is exactly. So when you define online in a very kind of limited sense, this is where you get stuck. I'm looking at the insurance, the service industry, especially people providing insurance in my whole BNI family. I'm amazed at the kind of service provision that they're doing right now. I mean, whether it's just speaking on the phone. Now, why isn't speaking on the phone online? It is online. Anything which is not physical face-to-face is there. So using the telephone to keep in touch with all their clients, updating them, using WhatsApp and other media to actually keep them informed and keep them engaged. Now, many of them anyway had the data on a cloud. So you can sit and actually manage the portfolios from there. So I haven't seen any slackening happening out there. And in fact, all the more so, suddenly insurance has become something very, very critical, whether it's health insurance or even life insurance for that matter. And this whole industry is actually rising to the challenge. And they're using multiple mediums and not necessarily only Zoom or any video conferencing. You have to look to see what's the technology available, what is the technology that allows you to reach out to your target audience, and then use it proportionately and appropriately to get to the outcome that you expect. I think that's kind of sums up what I'm going to say.
No, you're right. I think I don't know if we have chance, but then I actually wanted to quickly check. I was just consolidating why people are shifting to the blended models and how organizations is talking about it.
Right.
And this is basically, it is not just the video conferencing solution, which is probably the 1/3 part of the entire secured connectivity and having more integrated platforms.
Yeah.
And then connecting with the various people in a more seamless manner so that there are no challenges and better interaction. And the
Very true.
third aspect, which is more of a gamification or augmented reality, virtual reality things also will come up as a more online, more engaging aspect,
Right.
which people are not, aware of in that scenario.
Absolutely. In fact, if I might just interject, I think just at the beginning we spoke about, I think someone wanted to know something about the event space. Okay. From what I understand is the events industry, at least in India, is taking the worst case scenario. And they're saying there will not be any physical engagement, physical programs till maybe even end of the year. But you should see how slowly people are looking at the online medium as a way of not only moving events online, but also monetizing them. So I keep telling people, just because you're going online doesn't mean everything needs to be free. In the initial days, everybody's offering everything free. But you need to really start making a plan as to how this is going to be monetized. Just to give an example, Habitat for Humanity, for example, we've been running an online campaign to raise funds for the food essential kits and that we're giving out in this scenario. And we've had people coming and do online events for us and raising money because everybody's paying for it. And that's going straight away to the cause of distributing it. So we've had talk shows, we have had music programs. Last Sunday, we actually had from another BNI member who came up with the concept, a marathon at home concept. About 50 runners running, and there was an amount that was being contributed. So that is, now look at it when an event company gets into it and say, hey, listen, I'm going to put this event online. People are going to play from their homes, or people are going to sing from their homes, or people are going to do whatever they want from their homes, but we're going to put it online, but there's a premium to it. I may not charge you what I'll charge you, what, people in the stadiums, when you go to a stadium, what I'm going to charge. I'm going to charge you something for it. You need to look at how you're not just going to do this free. So, but that's the whole idea. I mean, the online medium offers a lot of opportunities. You need to see how you can really keep your business growing. And then if you're going to fall into this passive mode saying, oh, right now, let me just put things, free content out there. It's a self-defeating thought. You need to look at how you can monetize it. People will pay. People will pay to get good content online. So that is something which I think people have to look at as well. I'm sorry if I interrupted what you were saying, actually.
No, you're perfectly right. I was just trying to share a couple of the case studies which we had, but I think we don't have time. I don't want to take away the speaker's time. You brought up a very important point and just want to add there. In fact, we have kind of done a very good case study using our platform, which is an integrated platform, wherein we have actually made a live telecast of a marathon. Actual marathon happening there. We worked with ISAC, which is a social organization,
Yes.
and it's almost like one year ago, December 2018 or something, wherein all the marathons. So we can now, with our technology, we can just put it up in any drones, and it can make it as a live marathon. And what you have just mentioned is also possible with our kind of modules, when you have conferencing solutions and a live streaming solutions,
Right.
putting up all together. So, and integrated with that monetizable option like your payment gateways and things like that. So it has to be entirely automated. Otherwise, manually you will get crazy. That is not
Absolutely.
possible in an online world today.
Absolutely.
So I think beautifully answered, Naresh. Thanks for that.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much.
the same.
Thank you.
And I would definitely connect with you to work on that social initiative which we were talking about.
Sure, sure.
My another question to Ramesh. Ramesh, I first of all want to, kind of appreciate the way you have explained the metrics or the measurement importance with the loss of a day, a month, or a year, depending on what frequency you are measuring your data or any kind of information, be it financial or strategic or operations or different kind of things. Now, my question to you is that many of the SMEs, and you have specifically mentioned those SMEs out here, they start with something, some thoughts in their mind without even having a proper vision, business goal, business modeling, financial modeling, and even linkage to the metrics. And when it comes to the startups, it's all the more challenging because there are only one or two people member team. They may not even have that perspective into that. And so what do you suggest to them that if they have a chance, what they should be doing when it comes to, when they start their business, when they're running their business, and if they're already running their businesses, what is, immediate actions they can take to ensure the better measurement?
Brilliant. So 3-4 quick things. One is, startups, if they have some idea and if they think they are going to solve a problem, and that problem has some market acceptance, they need to establish a product market fit. And so first is, what problem are they solving? Is there a market for it? And is there a product market fit? So in the initial stages, and then you form the team that will actually execute this. What is required in terms of, if you split that problem statement into multiple segments, and who will own it, and who's the best horse who will actually take you to the promised land with respect to that problem statement, right? So that's how you start constituting a team. Right horse, right soldier, or right profiles, right roles and right profiles you need to identify, right? And many startups, what they end up doing during this phase is, if they try to overemphasize on perfection, is not good. So what they need to do is performance is better than perfection in the initial stages, right? So you need to get performing, and even if there is a small traction, you got to get on board, keep moving on. Momentum is important than perfection in the initial stages, right? As you start gaining momentum and traction, that leads to a network effect, and that network effect will take you to the next level of growth, right? So what happens is, in the initial stages, startups, they really want to know, head over heels, beg, borrow, steal. They use brute force, and even the analogy is, they will break an egg with a hammer to acquire customers at whatever the cost, right? This is what they got to be very, very careful. They got to watch out, because you got to optimize. Your resources are very limited. You can't throw money away, good money chasing bad things, right? So you have to be extremely cautious with your cash flow and resources. So you get your business plan in place, get your team in place, and start gaining traction, and ensure that you optimize your efforts to acquire more number of customers. Do not get on an extreme brute force, because by habit brute force comes in because there are no measurements in place, and brute force is eventually will be successful, but it could be a one horse one soldier, or it could be an entire army, a war room attacking one problem, but you will attack one problem but you will die out, right? So in the process, so you got to be extremely careful in during the stages of your growth, what you need to do, how you conserve money, and how you grow. So you got to balance it out very carefully. That doesn't happen in many of the startups. If they get a lot of capital and they lose sight of what is required in each stage, and then they burn the capital and the burn rate goes high, and hence the sustainability or survival becomes a challenge. And many a time what happens is they end up adding more people, and most of them without real measurements in place. They don't know. It's like, cricket or football, whatever. If you have one extra person into the field, suddenly everybody else, he will confuse with the other 11 persons. He doesn't know whether he's going to be, he's a bowler, he's a batsman, and which position and point where he's going to be positioned in the field. He confuses everyone, right? So one needs to know exactly what one should do, the roles and responsibilities and measurements, how they will get measured, how the role will get measured, how individually that person will get measured. These things do need to fall in place. And what happens is this don't happen. Most of the time, it's everyone starts running like headless chicken, right? So that's what you will see. But you will see a lot of action, a lot of commotion, a lot of collaboration. But the eventual outcome is you will really not achieve what is supposed to be achieved with finesse and ease and whatever the smoothness with which the execution could have been done or carried out. So in hindsight, they will realize this. But I'm trying to just say that this is what happens 99% of the time, 99.99%. Avoid these pitfalls and plan well and execute it in a way which is the most optimal way. You can always question whether is this the right way to execute or is there a better way to execute. That question alone will give you tons of results. And start looking at every stage of growth, even be it a corporate or a SMB. A financial metric as well as a non-financial metric is important. So non-financial metric should also include, it is not just internal and external non-financial metric, but customer related metric. Most of the companies miss customer metric. Okay, they talk about customer related, that's not just the customer metric. Are you really, if customer is buying your product for something, is at the end of implementation, at the end of adoption, at the end of customer using your product, is he achieving what he set out to buy initially? Is he achieving those initiatives? Is he achieving those objectives? You have to listen to the customer. You got to get clued in onto customers' usage and understand and be with them in their journey of growth. Most of the companies fail to do that, and that's where they fail to become good to great. Great companies are the ones who will actually be with the customer in their journey and sail along with them and ensure that their product is able to really contribute their success. This needs to be measured, and it's not easy to measure. In companies, corporates who are able to do this, they can they will probably outrun others. And it should not just start with an individual employee, it should start with the board. So the promoter, the board, the chairman, the CEO, and everybody in the company should be aligned to that kind of an objective. That's where the success comes.
Very right. And Ramesh, I think it's very important for every business to start measuring the different metrics. And I understand the metrics you're talking about, and I think I would like to mention a specific terminology, or I think a dashboard which we always use in the corporates is balanced scorecard. And that has all the parameters of it, right from the customer to their internal, the operational, the financial metrics into it, including the people matrices, because these are very, very important. I think beautifully explained. I don't have any questions. And Naresh, you have given a very wonderful example of a monetization, that unless you monetize, and that is what I've been hearing it from a lot of startups today, that let's try to penetrate at this time. And unless they have the monetization strategy clear, they will lose this opportunity. And this is the time for them to actually gain over it. I mean, you may have a different monetization strategy every time. It is not the ticket price of things like that, but then you have to have a monetization strategy around it.
I think the mistake I think people are making now is they think, and that's something which actually nobody knows, but they think this is a very short-term thing. This whole being online or this lockdown is in short term. Nobody knows, frankly. I mean, if you really go to see in the world, nobody knows how long this will continue. So you cannot wait and wait and wait and then say, when we get offline, we'll then start doing whatever. Your process has to be, I mean, just this morning, we were sharing a story about this one colleague called Aditya Borkar from Borkar Polymers. They're into prefab structures. Immediately, since when this thing started, he's created products within a week, which could be used for COVID. One of was a disinfection tunnel without the harmful disinfectants which the government is warning us about. He came up with a COVID testing station, etc. And he's got a third one coming, which is a touch-free hand sanitation unit. Now, this person has done this within the last 1 month, design phase to implementation to deployment. And, that's the whole deal. The fact is, like, he's not waiting for, okay, we'll do this design and then we'll slowly fabricate it, then we'll test it, then hopefully this thing will open up. No way. He's been there, and within a month, he's got these products out in the market. He's got export orders now. So the fact is, I think the sooner business people and SMEs or whoever it is understand that, we don't know how long we're going to be in this condition, figure out how we're going to use the online medium and get cracking. That's all people need to do. Just get moving. Sorry.
Yeah, so I think I would also want to share that this is what we at Bringle also is trying to do, especially when it comes to the online world. And the purpose here is to basically connect the people all across the globe, sharing these insights to them, and bringing in those business sustainability aspects. From the technology point of view, our platform was being, there. We have upgraded our platform a bit in last 1 month's time. And now you will see a lot of automations coming in, and with the inclusion of augmented reality, virtual reality as well, I think we are now gearing up to reach out to the schools and colleges and educational institutes specifically, because I'm seeing this problem which is happening with my daughter as well. Every day she's taking classes. She does not have any reference points. The recordings are not available. The assessments are happening in a different platform. There's no seamless integrated platforms today. And when it comes to Bringle blended learning platforms, they can actually get into those kind of seriousness. But I think it is the problem. What I'm trying to say is that while health is a critical segment, the organizations themselves are not realizing that this could be the requirement for them, and they are just going across with a cost perspective. Okay, it's like in Hindi, काम चल रहा है ना, that chalta hai attitude, it will work, it will go down. And I've been getting these calls from few startups saying that, give me some business, I have a space available, I can get some. I said, who is getting offline business today? Singapore just announced a lockdown till 1st of June.
Yeah.
And Charu is there. I mean, been working out and managing it, all that. We have actually had to drop one speaker from Singapore today because of the extension of lockdown.
Wow.
So the problem is that people are still not understanding, and so many administrative hassles which are coming up. The overall impact will reduce. Anyway, so I think let's come back to that. Divaspati, you had some question. I'm just unmuting you if you want to ask that question directly. Divaspati, would you be asking that question?
Then there are two questions, Sridevi and from Sushil.
So I am just allowing everybody to unmute. Sridevi, why don't you unmute and share your question?
Okay, thank you, Anshav.
This is your video.
Okay, 1 second. Yeah, hi. This is for Mr. Naresh. You were speaking about telling a story to customers, or instead of giving the statistics to run a business or for the growth. So I mean I've heard this from a lot of people saying speak your story instead of giving statistics or trying to sell your product. So but it's never clear for me as to what is the story I have to talk. Can you give me some basis on this aspect?
Sure. First of all, let me correct it. I never said that stories are a substitute for statistics. Stories need to supplement statistics. Yeah. So you know
Okay.
the statistics you generate, okay? You know the statistics. For example, taking my example with Habitat for Humanity. If I'm into housing and sanitation, or right now, if I'm into the distribution of food essential kits or sanitation kits, I am going to be talking about how many kits have been distributed, how many individuals impacted, how many families impacted, what is maybe the demographic breakup of the families. I'll talk about the states I've been working. I'll talk about the smaller districts I'm working in, etc., etc. So those are the statistics. Now, this is great, okay, because they do impress. As your numbers go up, they do impress. But what happens, especially for a non-profit, and there's no reason why it won't happen for a corporate as well. You have to talk about individuals. You talk about a family. Like we did this whole thing. We built a building for 16 visually impaired families in a place called Vangani, which is just on the outskirts of Mumbai recently. And there are about 10,000 individuals out there who are visually impaired in that whole community. So we started with the food essential kits with them. Now, when we talk, we take one family and say, hey, listen, what was your situation before you got the house, or what was the situation when you were not getting this impact, and what is the situation now? What is it you're looking forward to now you got a house? So when you're taking these stories out, there has to be a template. Your communications department has to devise a template which gets a story effectively in the smallest possible kind of words. That has to be very effective. A video testimonial, for example, would be brilliant. Then it's not something, then, no one can accuse you of saying like, you have made this up. You have a video testimonial, they're saying, hey, this is how it is. You get a proper captioning or a translation that works. Similarly, I love, I think, again, back to the Tatas. Every time you want to talk about an example, we go to the Tata. If you remember that famous campaign, We Also Make Steel. You saw that the story was about their employees. The story was also about how they were building India. What the story was about, they're impacting people. And the whole thing was We Also Make Steel was a kind of a byline. So the whole idea being that at the end of it, whatever you do, and I think Ratan Tata spoke about it so beautifully yesterday on this webinar he was on, where he said you cannot forget that humans are the core of everything you do. So when you're talking about that, even in businesses, you need to talk about the human interest story. And that's what I feel. I know when in my friends group, when I got into the NGO sector about 20, 30 years ago, they used to feel that I've done something major. And I said, the only difference is that we are fortunate enough to see the impact we're making on the ground a little closer. You being in the corporate sector, do not see it, but you are impacting people. You are keeping you're giving every family 2 meals a day, which you don't even credit yourself for. So there are things you're doing by the products you make or the processes you have, which are impacting people. Get those stories out and tell those stories as well while you give the statistics. You are impacting this country, you're impacting the people, you're impacting the economy, but get those stories out. We need stories. That's what empowers people. Statistics, yes, but beyond that, you need stories. But both of them together are a powerful medium. Hope it helps. Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you, Naresh.
Anshul, sorry, I was busy writing something which I don't want to miss out on some points. So that's why I did not ask that question.
You're back online.
I was there online. I don't want to miss out on important points. I was writing that point before I come to the question. Okay, my question was to Akshay actually. He's in the field of creativity. My question, based on his experience, what are the top 3 parameters he experienced that which can be set for measurables in creative field?
Okay, so it is linked to the media, the medium that we are using.
Yeah.
But if we have to generalize it to some extent, then let's say it is a normal feature film that we are talking about. Then I'll definitely think of creativity is how many number of people have watched that film.
Okay.
So that is one. Also, it is linked to what kind of revenue that the film generates on the box office or through OTT platforms. Usually nowadays that OTT deals and the television deals happen before the release of the film. So honestly, to measure the success of the film, the box office is the only aspect that is undecided for most of the Hindi mainstream films. So that is one. And what is the recall value of any kind of media content is also a very important measure that we can use, because there are currently in lockdown, all of us are are really enjoying all that Ramayana, Mahabharat and Shaktiman, because all of that has a greater recall value and it has an association with each and everyone in India, because back then there was not too much of content. That's why the recall value of that content is very much larger than what content that we access today, because it is when we talk about the news as a medium, the news gets old the moment it happens. That because nowadays the news is not about 7 p.m. bulletin or 9 p.m. bulletin. It is happening 24/7 at every millisecond of any day. And through Twitter and social media, there are several perspectives that come into public domain at the same time. So for a news, it is very difficult. It's a different measure. For film, is a different measure. That's how I would
in news.
Put it.
In news, I think now more focused on the impact what it is making.
Yes. And as earlier someone mentioned about that, how the media content plays on the mind of people, and especially with the kind of stories Naresh sir just now mentioned about the stories thing. So today the media, the kind of news we get through media definitely help us shape up our reality also. That's the impact that these news stories make. So nowadays, that we all know that lockdown thing has happened, this COVID-19 has happened, and there are a lot of questions in people's mind that how the future is going to happen. There was that particular letter that came from Spain or Italy, I don't know, and it went viral on social media and somewhere, that the future of rest of the world, something of that kind of that letter it was. But honestly, people are aware of what is going to happen or something, but right now what was required was the positivity in the environment. So the kind of news are going around impact to greater extent, I would say. And right now we need a lot of positive stories.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you
very much.
I think brilliantly explained and a wonderful session. I would really want to continue, but we'll have to do a hard stop somewhere. With this, I would.
I'm sure there is one question from Sushil. Should we take it? It has come long time.
Okay, just a moment. Let me see. Sushil, you're there?
I think
he's not there.
Okay. Then we'll check with.
So we'll take it up offline,
yes.
And maybe we can, speak to the respective speaker and then connect back.
Sure.
So, okay. So thanks everybody. I think I would want now Mani to kind of share the pulse of wisdom for today. So we are waiting for the pulse necklace for today and the story, Mani.
Thanks, Ansha. I do the noting of the points and key insights while the speakers are helping us understand all the beautiful ways of learning from the key things of business. And in the process today, I was with assumption that measures are always black and white. But what I could see today is various colors of measures, and I could paint a little picture of that with three aspects in mind. One is to start with creativity, and then how effective is that use, and finally how it can show us or help us. To start with, Akshay shared a very interesting insight, like creativity can be more subjective with respect to perception of the audience within the economic and social boundaries, and as well as it has to appeal the masses. Then only it can be said as creative. And his insight was like, at the core of the business, creativity has to be linked to the purpose, and it has to address a target market fit, which can appreciate the tasks based on the exposure or the awareness of that audience, which makes it a real measure. Thanks for that, Akshay. It was very, very interesting and very helpful. And moving on, Naresh has given a lot of different versions of measure, the best one to start with is like measure is a reflection where one has moved in the actual plan of where one has to go. So this is a very interesting insight. Measure gives you a reflection. And the second interesting thing is the best qualitative indicator. Of course, measures are both qualitative and quantitative indicators, but the best qualitative indicator is about the storytelling, which are of with important facts of measurement to the business world today. This is very, very relative and very important insight that everyone can take it. And finally, he also touched upon the complexity of data in terms of a measure is the choice of business for what's need to be measured and how many of the measures are right amount without increasing the workload and the key sensitivity of monitoring. So this has to be very well taken care when you are understanding the complexity of data in a measure. And finally, Ramesh actually shares a different perspective of SMEs to large corporates to startups. And few things to start what he shared are like envisioning an outcome or a big picture and then formulate the process will actually define the measure. That's a very good start for a business. And which also helps measure as an outcome more like a compass, which can help companies know whether they're heading north or they're heading south. And finally, one measure, the way it is beautifully said, one measure a business over a year, the loss is 1 year. One measures a business over a month, the loss is a month. One measures a business over a day, the loss is a day. And this is brilliantly put in a way to understand we should not spend too much of time on measures, only build the measures that are really required. And also there are two other insights which I would like to share. Like he also stressed on looking at data in connection to what Naresh has said. In connection to data, looking at data in isolation doesn't give a trend, but it is a mirror that shows the trueness of business. So you should understand the depth of the data and try to help what your business is speaking true to you. That's the essence of a learning for an entrepreneur. And also the other simplest insight is like importance of a measure is to remove the noise of subjectivity and be more objective. So with this, I actually complete the picture I've painted as pearls of wisdom. And thanks to you, Anshav, and thanks to all the speakers for sharing these valuable insights and making this session very, very, very helpful for all the entrepreneurs. Thank you.
Thanks, Mani. I would like to request Rajshri and Sharmila to just share their thoughts about today's session and talk about your specialty out here.
Okay. Okay. So today's session, Anshav, when I was talking to all the speakers while finalizing them, I knew, they come from a different level. And for me, when I sit here, because I talk to each of them separately, and when I sit here and when I see them interacting and bringing out their pearls of wisdom, I see the amount of, profoundness which comes, an engagement that happens with the audience. And it's like a continuous process that is happening of learning and actually on the ground how you are going to run with it. And that is what I can say. That is my understanding. Okay, about me, I am a founder of Poonam Foundation, and we work a lot on gender neutrality. We create gender neutral societies, so create a lot of awareness in these areas. We create gender neutral organizations. So because of my HR background, which is of 28 years, I've integrated the entire gender neutrality into the DNA of HR system. And we also look at the youth and mindsets which has to be gender neutral. This is for the harmony and peace, higher productivity and creativity. Thank you, Anshu. Thanks for giving me
Wonderful work, Rajshri. And I think thanks for being there and making this 21 days challenge really possible. Thank you so much. Sharmila.
Yes.
So
I am actually in seventh heaven. Totally on cloud nine. Okay, numbers are something that I love. I am a mathematician by academics, a statistician and a mathematician. So numbers are something that I consume. And today has been something, I had a feast.
Okay.
So that's how I put it. I have been in Bombay for 20 years, so I do know Naresh's work. And Ashay has been my student, so I think from 2012 I have been seeing him grow and how. So hats off to both of you. And Ramesh has been a revelation. I just sat and listened. There was nothing I wanted to be disturbed. So this has been probably the best session that I had personally. Anja, 3 weeks back we had a chat on economies of scale on accessibility. Today, when Ashay said that yes, accessibility is there, but it is at a business level. But business has to sustain. So that is what I had been trying to tell. Like, yes, it has to be sustainable at a business level. So all things said and done, everything needs money, and we need to take care of that.
absolutely.
To the participants, I think they know, except for narration. Ramesh, I am a co-founder at Bringle, but before that, I was a corporate. Uh, I was in the corporate rat race. I left it and I joined Bringle 3 years back to pursue my passion. And this is where I think today I see that yes, we have reached at a level where I can talk to a global audience. So,
Thank you so much, Sharmila. I think it's my honor and pleasure to be you being there and support, and also to the entire core team, Mani, Charu, and we call that as Fab 5, Rajshri. Thanks, Sharmila. And with this, I would like to thank Ashay, Naresh, and Ramesh for spending their valuable time and finding out this time from their busy schedules and sharing their pulse of wisdom with the entire world. You can watch it live, every day on Radio Masti 24/7 Singapore. They are publishing daily pulse of wisdom on their show, on their mobile app, which is available on both iOS and Android. That's the only Hindi speaking radio channel in Southeast Asia. They are our radio partners for Southeast Asia. So please tune in that Radio Masti application so that you can watch, you can listen to the pulse of wisdom of today's show. I would also like to thank all the complete core team and the community partner Women Line, startups partner Solvex, social impact partner Vardhan, gender neutrality partner Poonam Foundation, ecosystem partner Millennium Divas, financial and real estate services partner as LAC Wealth Advisors and PPO Club, consulting partner as PMC Consulting, and business networking partner as ICX Pro. I would also want to put up a special thanks to community partner Connected Experience, which is based out of Singapore, and it is a group of wonderful people of Yusuf, Pooja, Charu, Ms. Shuchi, and Kasturi. So thanks for them for being a wonderful support and promoting this thing to a larger ecosystem to the entire globe, because of which we are able to reach out to the, almost, I don't have a count right now, but I can see on the social media that we have at least covered 25 to 30 countries by now. Thanks for all of your support, and we would look forward for more and more support from you. Till then, I would say keep bringing, keep growing.
Thank you very much.
So much for
Thank
all
you.
the
Thanks
speakers.
everyone for joining. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.